Hello everyone, how you going? And welcome to 10 weird things about Australia / Australians. Now we've kind of done the why you shouldn't come here, and you also have done what's kind of a little bit wrong about the entire place, but now I just want to know what's a little bit weird, and so luckily we have this guy here and he's just going to actually just explain the weird things to me. Let's just see how much I agree with it. Anyway, let's see. Alrighty,
what's
then,
good, y'all?
what is he going to have to say? I'm
we're
sure I'm going to have a couple of
10
comments,
weird
but here we
things
go.
about Australians and Australia. I've been here for almost 1 year now, and as much as I love it here,
we go. At least it's good to know how long he's been here, because I feel as though even if you live somewhere for, I don't know, 20 years, you probably aren't going to pick up on every little detail compared to someone that grew up here. So at least it's good to know that he's been here for a year, and so, you know, a little bit of leniency if nothing else.
Americans and maybe other people just find a little bit odd. So the first weird thing about Australians is the mullet. I don't know who decided to bring the mullet back in style, but dude, come on, Australia. Did y'all not learn from the 80s? No one has ever looked at someone with the mullet and gone, damn, that's a good haircut. If you're
I just have to pause him right there because yes, a mullet is definitely going to be deemed under the category of questionable hairstyles, but at the same time I've also heard that, well, I can also see that it's making a comeback in Australia, but I've also heard that it's kind of become an international thing again, you know? Even though this guy might be saying, oh, I don't know how much you should be really doing it, and no one has ever looked at it and gone, oh yeah, that's a good thing. I would actually disagree. There were plenty of people in this world and plenty of people out west or, you know, just towards the inside of the country that would go, oh, that's actually a nice mullet. And so to have the audacity to say that no one within the entire history of the mullet has ever done that and just gone, yeah, that suits someone, I feel as though it's just an absolute crime against humanity, because even though by today's standards it might be considered just a little bit retro, even just out of fashion, at the same time you can't knock the entire thing when it is making a comeback. And so here we go. I guess I just should have let him play and see if he explains himself a little bit more.
You're not a gun-toting, polyamorous, homosexual with like 200 plus pet tigers, or I don't know,
what
something else crazy exotic like that, like the mullet is not for you. Number two,
Number
shoey.
two, all right
so,
then. Oh,
if you don't know what a
straight
shoey
onto
is,
the
a
shoey.
shoey is kind of like a beer bong in America. You take an entire beer,
Yeah,
you pour it in your shoe,
explain
and you chug it out of your shoe. I'm not saying all Australians are doing this. It's kind of like the American beer bong, like, you know, a younger crowd, college kids. Here it's kind of like college bogans, like that group. But I don't know. Shoey,
I mean, yeah, it's definitely
you gotta
that
admit,
case.
it's kind of a little bit weird.
I mean, I absolutely agree with this entire fact. And to be honest, I just never understand how something like that even comes about. Like, who goes, okay, I've got this shoe and I've got this beer, and just, oh, you know what? Oh my goodness, I've discovered the new perfect situation. Like, no, it doesn't really make sense. But I guess, like I said, it's definitely kind of a semi-popular thing. I wouldn't exactly say that if you just walk down the street, you're going to see every single person beside you just doing one, but at the same time, you know, it wouldn't have a reputation if it wasn't kind of a thing.
That is the word footy refers to two different sports depending where you are in Australia. There's Australian football, there's rugby league, and there's rugby union.
Okay,
when I was in Melbourne, everyone was talking about footy, referring to Australian football. It's like slang for Australian football.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I just have to interject there because there's kind of almost four things. Maybe you can even just, I don't know, extrapolate it out into everything else, but there are definitely at least three, if not four, if not five. Like I said, it definitely depends on which part of the country you're in terms of just which one is going to spring to the front of people's minds first, but at the same time, they are definitely going to be used and interchangeably used between multiple sports. Exactly like you said, we've got AFL, which I guess if you were in any state besides New South Wales or Queensland, then that is definitely going to be the front of people's minds. If you are in New South Wales or Queensland, then I guess rugby league is probably going to be kind of equal, or I don't know, depending on who you talk to, it's going to be kind of interchangeable. And then from there, like you said, we definitely do have rugby union coming in third in the pecking order. I mean, it would more be contextual in terms of, okay, I'm talking about the Bledisloe Cup, I'm talking about the this, that, so you wouldn't actually really say it as much, but it is definitely still called footy in some ways. And then on top of all of that, we definitely at least have four things, if not a fifth thing, but the fourth thing is also going to be soccer, which if the purist soccer, like the soccer purists kind of importing it from the Euros, then they also will call it football, kind of, but you can shorten that down to footy. And so really, if you kind of just extend it out from the footy to the full length, we have four footballs. And so yeah, I don't blame people for being a little bit confused.
Yeah, then I came up to Cairns and everyone's like, oh yo, footy season's about to start. And I'm like, oh wait, like, isn't it already started? And they're like, oh no, like, no, not Australian football, like not AFL,
yeah, there we go. Like, exactly
league.
Like I was just saying, so Cairns is in Queensland, and so if you're going to be going to Queensland, it is probably going to be more on the frontal part of people's minds when you're saying rugby league instead of AFL, just because, well, they're a little bit backwards, but anyway.
So yeah, so I don't know where the line is, but
yeah, like you said, I mean, I just kind of accept, oh, here
Cairns,
we go.
It means rugby league, and if you're down south in Melbourne, it means footy.
It is good to see that everything that I just said is also just been backed up on what he just said. So Cairns, like I said, is in Queensland, so he definitely had that experience, but then if you were in Melbourne, then you were definitely going to be talking about AFL 100% of the time, and so yeah, at least everything that I've experienced, everything I know is also his experience.
Fourth weird thing about Australia is that vaping with nicotine is illegal here.
Yes,
so let me explain why that's kind of weird. So first of all, vaping is not illegal here. You're allowed to vape, but you just cannot vape with nicotine. The reason for it is because,
I mean, it's a very kind of weird grey area, and there's a lot of people doing some, I wouldn't exactly call them dodgy things, but workaround things, but I want to see what he's got to say.
Because they have a law that says you can't sell anything with nicotine in it that's not like cigarettes, tobacco, whatnot, or a quitting aid. And for some reason, vaping's not considered a quitting aid, even though like hundreds of thousands of people have quit smoking through vaping.
I mean, I've never really thought about it that in depth before, but I guess that certainly makes sense. Like I said, there are definitely people going about other ways to get around the entire thing, but I've never really considered it from a legal point of view in terms of you not able to sell the thing. So yeah, I guess it makes sense in that regard because it's just not, I guess, regulated in the same way.
The next thing that I think is really weird about Australia
what is it going to be?
You guys get so much damn time off for a stupid horse race. Yep. Sorry, I probably shouldn't call it stupid. For you Americans, you like the Kentucky Derby, it's a really big horse race. Like there's the Melbourne Cup is a really like huge, like one of the biggest horse races in the world, and it takes place here in Australia.
Exactly as you just said, it's kind of more of a worldwide thing. I mean, I can't imagine that we'd actually get the day off for any kind of public holiday or anything like that if it wasn't such a worldwide phenomenon. I don't even know what else to call it, but yeah, we definitely do get kind of a holiday. What's the name? A public holiday, yeah. All just because of a 5-minute horse race. Honestly, I don't even know if it's a 5-minute horse race, but yes, I mean, I guess the entire day is kind of a Melbourne Cup day, Melbourne Cup race day. But yes, I can certainly understand if you are from America, if you are from the UK, or honestly just any country, really, even Australia, I think finds it a little bit weird, but they just go along with it because they just want the holiday.
Like 3-minute horse race is somehow justifies an entire public holiday. You get the whole day off from work. If you are working, then you get paid a time and a half, and that's like not even the start to the craziness. So
honestly, it's like, what is it? New Year's Eve isn't considered a public holiday, but Melbourne Cup Day is, and there is so many, like, what is it, Christmas Eve, or maybe Christmas Eve 7. Either way, I will admit that it is a little bit strange that we have a public holiday for a horse race and not for New Year's and Christmas Eve.
Alright, the next one is not that
on to the next one. What is it going to be? Come on.
It's kind of weird when coming here, and that is every single one of your outlets has like an on-off switch, so you can like turn the
weird, but I wouldn't say it's
electricity to the
wrong,
outlet
unlike the
on or
last
off.
videos that
I don't
we've
really
been
get
looking
this
at.
because like if you want to turn something off, you usually just like turn it off. Like if you have a lamp plugged
No,
in, you
but
turn the
that's
lamp off,
different
and
to
then
actually just
if you
turning
didn't
something
want to
off.
like
Most
hit
things
the
are just
switch
going
to
to be
turn
on
it off, then
standby.
you can like unplug it is another way to turn it off. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
well, that's no, like, why would you want to bother having to unplug and replug and unplug and replug where you just can flick a switch and just leave it physically plugged in still? That sounds so much better. I mean, like I said, it can definitely be weird or just different, but I wouldn't exactly say that it's the wrong thing. Honestly, it also is just kind of a safety mechanism. You can turn things off, and so you don't have to worry about them actually being on when you're dealing with other stuff. But hey, I guess I should actually just wait and see what he has to say about the entire thing, because like I said, it is only weird.
Turn it off if you want. You can go to the little outlet and switch it off. Yeah.
What?
For some reason, a lot of us
I have to take it back.
Turn it off, then you can like unplug it is another way to turn it off.
So we've got 1, 2, 3.
There's also a third way to turn it off if you want. You can go to the little outlet.
I mean, like I said, it just makes sense. You can just do a little bit of a switch instead of just having to unplug
turn things off by turning the power to the switch off, which I don't know. Like, is there an advantage to that? I really don't know any sort of advantage there is to doing that.
I mean, I guess like I said, what is he going to say?
Only thing that I can really think of is like maybe if you have like a baby or little kid and you don't want them like accidentally electrocuting themselves by like sticking a knife in there.
I guess so. That isn't the first thing that comes to mind, because I guess they can very easily just switch it back on, and so it's not that kind of safety. It's just so much more convenient than having to unplug things and replug things in every time. And like I said, if something actually just needs to be kind of turned off instead of you just wanting to be on standby, which is going to use some amount of power, then you can just do it that way.
But yeah, you legally have to have them here.
There we go. At least he actually said that also. Wait, before you get on to 7. At least he actually said that you have to have them because, like I said, it's just safer and all these things. But also, in saying that, I would love to know what his sample size was in terms of just him going, just everyone here just loves to turn off at the wall. I mean, yeah, a lot of people do like to do it, but I feel as though that's just because people like to be a little bit OCD about it, not because they just want to turn the thing off at the wall. But here we go, number 7.
Voting here is mandatory.
I mean, yeah,
like,
there we go.
If you don't vote, you get fined. In America,
that is correct.
And in most other like Western democratic governments.
Actually, I feel as though I've heard that in the UK it is as well, like the same as us in terms that it is compulsory, but at the same time I have no research or anything to back that up, and so maybe it isn't.
Voting is like a freedom, like a right. However, in Australia, I think it's kind of more of like an obligation. The fines aren't crazy expensive, like, I don't know, it's the difference between like if it's a state election, I think, or a national election. I don't know the details. I've heard 20, I've heard 55, I've heard 100. But either way, I think it's kind of crazy that you like can get fined to not vote, because so like in America and a lot of other countries, there is a problem with people not voting, so I get why you would do that. However,
yeah, exactly. I think it's just to kind of encourage, or I guess it's not really encouraging if you're kind of forcing people to do it, but it's just to make sure that democratically people aren't complaining because everyone is meant to vote. And yeah, some people might be saying, well, that's kind of just going against the entire thing about voting and having that freedom to vote, but I think, like I said, it's just to make sure that everyone's voting so no one can actually just completely landslide victory because everyone just went, oh no, they'll vote for me.
Don't know anything about politics and they just vote so they don't get fined. I think if this was in America, like we already have a bunch of like idiots like voting. We don't need all idiots being forced to vote. I don't know. I can't really say if it's better or worse, but I will say
like I said, I don't really know if it's better or worse, but I think it's just making sure that people actually exercise their right to vote. Like you actually, I guess you are forcing them to do it, but in some ways it makes a more equally spread democratic country in some ways.
Another thing that is really weird about Australia is their McDonald's are run by like children.
Wait, what? Yes. How is that different? Wait, I'm very confused. This is taking me completely off guard.
What I mean by this is pretty much the minimum wage in Australia. It varies like based upon how old you are. As you get older, the minimum wage goes up. By the time you're like, I don't know, I think you can start working here like 14, 15, something like that.
18,
and once you're like 19, 20, around that age, then you hit like the maximum minimum wage. So because McDonald's is really cheap and always tries cutting costs, they only hire you if you're like under 18. Then if you're working,
I mean, if you were 18 and you were still working at Macca's, you were ancient. You were a fossil sitting in the corner. There is no one besides maybe the manager of the entire place that is going to be over 18. Honestly, I feel as though if you just took a survey of every single Macca's employee in terms of just people working on the fries and the grills and even just the kind of, what do they call them, the cashiers and everything like that, they're going to be a minimum age, or I guess an average age of maybe 15, 16, because they just don't want you after that. You're too damn expensive. Because like I said, you can start working about 14. I mean, I don't know if that's with parent consent, or maybe you can work earlier than that with parent consent, but either way, it's about 14, let's say, when people are going to be their minimum age to start working. So that's like, I don't know, they might pay you like $12 an hour compared to $18 an hour. And so, you know, it's like 12, 13, 14, 15, $17 like that. And as you go up the years, you just start costing them more. And so they just don't want to pay you anymore. And so besides just being a fossil in the corner, you just don't get, I don't know, you don't get shifts anymore because they just don't want to be paying you anymore. It's just that simple, really. And so they just hire all these young kids just as their second job or their side job while they're doing school.
There and you turn 19, if you're not already a manager, you're gonna get fired, or they're at least gonna cut your hours back until like you're pretty much fired.
So I actually, like, they just don't give you any hours unless you're somehow managing to get like a part-time, full-time position at Macca's, which is just never gonna happen because they don't want you there if you're just too old. At the same time, if you're over 18, maybe if you're ever over 16, you just start getting no shifts.
Met an Australian McDonald's manager and he was only 18, and he said him and all like he was like a shift manager, and like him and like the managers above him, they're all between the ages of 18 and 22.
Yeah, like I said, that's a little bit jump cut, but like I said, you can just be a very young person being the head of Macca's because they just don't employ anyone any younger.
He was very young to be managing that many people. I forgot to say this earlier, but I really wanted to
What's
mention
he going to be saying here?
Excellent. Like, I think this is such a great thing.
I mean, I guess it makes sense in some ways, actually.
Because how many other jobs, how many other places can you have, like, can you get that type of management experience?
I mean, yeah, I guess I hadn't exactly thought about it like that before, but it does allow people to put in their resume just something like, okay, I did this, and you worked at Macca's, and that actually gets you a pretty good reputation to move on to other things because you go, okay, well, at least you worked somewhere. I mean, of course, there's the other side of the coin in terms of what I already mentioned about you being too expensive, but it just makes sense in terms of just getting people their first job and something on their resume.
It's also weird about Australia. They kind of have something that's very similar, and that is
aioli.
I don't even know if we have aioli in America. Like, if we do, it's kind of like ranch here, like you'll have it, but you don't really use it. But dude, I tell you, in Australia, they put aioli on freaking everything.
I mean, aioli and fish and chips is like the way to go, with a little bit of lemon as well. Ooh, there we go. That's your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I don't know. Just pick any day of the week you have fish and chips, and you can have aioli with it as well.
Definitely not as common as ranches in America, but it's still on like a lot of stuff, and you can always get it on the side of pretty much anything.
Yeah, but it's because there are kind of a few things that are more tailored towards having aioli. Really, I guess actually tomato sauce is going to be more popular than aioli, but at the same time, if you like it and that's what you like, then you can just get it whatever.
Before I tell you about the last weird thing about Australia, I got a little like bonus weird tip for you. So this
bonus,
is like
here we
super
go.
specific,
bonus round,
but
super
it has
specific.
total
I feel
American
like
vibes. Like,
is
yes,
pretty
it's
super
weird, but
specific.
this is like American weird. This isn't like Australian weird. But that is, if you go to a grocery store here, like Kohl's and Woolies, I've noticed this at both. Like, everything looks like it's discounted. They got little discounted things on like 75% of the products. But it took me a long time to realize this. Some of them are yellow and some are like red and white. The yellow ones are like actual discounts. All the ones with red,
like you said, this is a very kind of oddly specific thing, but I'm kind of interested.
Ticket prices aren't really on sale. What the ticket price will say? Well, discounts. All the ones with red ticket prices aren't really on sale. What the ticket price will say? So there'll be like a little price, and then there'll be a ticket on it, and it'll have a higher price, and then have a line through it and have the new price. And then if you look really closely, you'll see there'll be like a date. And that date might be 6 months ago, it might be a year ago, it might be 2 years ago. Doesn't matter when, it just means that the price, like that date on there, the price was higher on that date.
I mean, I must admit, I have never actually paid that close attention and got out the magnifying glass on just a discount tag. But then again, actually, I'll just find it. Here we go. We'll go back to the yellow. Here we go. But if you actually just look at the red tag, I imagine that the $2.20, like let's say it was a milk for $2.20, it is now they've somehow managed to rip off some farmers, and so now it's going to be $2 instead of it was $2.20. So then in terms of going over to the yellow tag, that is kind of just a current kind of, I guess, limited time run where it's going to be on a sale. Like let's say this is going to be on sale for, they usually do like a week or a month or 2 weeks, you know, those kind of increments, where it's going to be 30% off for a certain amount of time. It isn't going to be like the red one, which is kind of going to go down and then stay down, I guess, until inflation takes it back up.
American capitalism, like the way we like put like tax on the top
there we
of
go. I
everything.
mean, that's the one thing that I just
like,
never understand, how you have to like
kind
of factor in your own taxes all over the states, because every state has a different amount of tax. Like, that just seems dumb, and I just don't want to have to deal with that. Just give me the number on the ticket is the number I have to pay, thanks, every day of the week, even if I have to deal with a little bit of a red and yellow tag.
Trick is a total way to make you think that you're getting a deal when you're really not. It's definitely tricks me. I'm like,
just
oh,
buy
sale,
what you
yes.
want, or just look for the deals.
It's
not that hard. Just look at the programs or anything.
And it reminded me another weird thing about Australia, but I've talked about this.
Oh, here we go. Is this number 10 or what's going on?
It's illegal to ride a bike.
Too. Illegal not to wear a helmet on a bike, and that counts, I guess, for both cyclists and motorbikes. Like, both of them, you have to wear a helmet. There is nowhere anywhere in the country where it wouldn't be possible for you to get fined for not wearing a helmet. I guess that's exactly what illegal means, I guess.
Here we go, number 10. No shoes or shirt, and you still get service. Pretty much every store in America will have a sign that says like no shoes, no shirt, no service. Pretty much every store in America will have a sign that says like no shoes, no shirt, no service. Well, that's not the case here.
I've never seen that before. Like we've seen before, Australia has a lot of signs, but I've never seen a no shoes, no shirt, and no service thing like he was just saying in the States. But anyway,
Target or a Kmart, which is kind of like a Walmart, or even grocery shopping. Like, you don't need shoes, you don't need shirts. It's like total Australian vibe. So like, I don't know, you can't even really get mad at it.
I mean, I definitely feel as though there's a little bit of a radius or proximity in terms of a beach, in terms of where it's going to be acceptable, because if you are just in the middle of nowhere and you're walking in with no shoes, everyone's going to be looking at you a little bit weird. But if you're just literally walking across the sand over to any store, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I guess they didn't have their shoes or anything. No one's going to put in their shoes after they just come from the beach. And so yeah, you can pretty much walk into everywhere. Some places might be a little bit more frowned upon, and you're definitely going to get a couple more weird looks, but it is definitely the case that you can do a lot of places that I guess other countries might not, well, I guess might just frown upon a little bit more.
You can't even really get mad at it. Australia is not the only country that has a couple of weird things about it. 20 weird things about America. Okay, well, there we go. That is going to be the end of the video for him, isn't it? No, so at least this one, unlike the last couple of videos that we've been watching, it didn't infuriate me much. I was more kind of intrigued about what was weird, really, from the aioli, and then what else did we have? Some of the ones like this, which I can understand how will be a little bit different. I don't really know if it classifies as weird. I mean, I guess the horse race in the Melbourne Cup is a little bit weird. I can definitely get behind that one, but at the same time, you know, it's just another day off, and so no one complains in the slightest. And so, hey, overall, I think this was a pretty decent list. There was a couple of surprises in there, but I can definitely understand how that might be considered weird. But anyway, in saying that, I reckon I'm going to call it there. So thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to do the algorithmic things down below, and also make sure to check out the original video in the description. Also, if this is the first video of mine that you were watching, then maybe you want to check out the last video, which was just infuriating, or hey, maybe even just want to consider subscribing so that you don't miss another one of these in the future. But all in all, have a good one, and see ya.